Thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak here at this event, at this launch of this wonderful project. It asks such a fundamentally important question, about the production of migration, which makes a step change from how we think about migration generally, because it recognizes that where it is produced, who produces it, how does producing migration knowledge actually change migration as a field? How does it change migrants' everyday lives? How does it change policy? All these questions come into the fore when you start talking about production of migration, because it emphasizes the locatedness and the agency of both the researcher and the migrant when you talk about the production of migration. So it's a brilliant question, and I really look forward to seeing some of the answers as the years go by. Spaces of migration has been fundamental to my research, partly because I'm a professor of geography and migration, so this brings the two topics close together. I've actually been interested in the spaces of the things that surround migration and how they are entangled with the spaces of migration. So let me give you an example. What about talking about the spaces of education, right? At the moment in the UK, we have a drop in the international student numbers, and therefore universities are laying off jobs because so much of university funding has come from international students, right? Now, is this a migration problem or is this an education problem, right? This is a question that we need to kind of keep asking ourselves, because it's important that we do not think of spaces of migration as unconnected to the spaces of education. Similarly, we could talk about the spaces of aging, right? What happens to aging people if there are no migrants? Would this mean that they have no care in care homes? Would this mean that actually they would be at home and the families would take greater responsibility? What are we envisaging when we are problematizing migration in these sorts of fields, right? And we are saying we don't want any more migrants. What's the space and what's the definition of those other characteristics, other things that are going on in life, like welfare, aging, health, education? What does all that mean if there is no migration, right? What is economic growth without migration, right? So we need to think really about the spaces of all the other surrounding categories and how they therefore inflect and influence the spaces of migration. And that's been really at the centerpiece of my work, actually thinking, let's stop thinking of these as migration issues. Let's start thinking about these as issues that everybody's concerned with. Most of the people you see on the street, they'll talk, you ask them, what's your problem? What are you worried about? They'll say migration. Then you spend a little bit of time in saying, okay, what exactly troubles you in your everyday life? Oh, prices are high, my child doesn't get a place in school, they have to compete. Now, these are problems of the economy. These are problems of not having enough schooling places. They're not problems of migration, right? So once people understand that actually their problems are problems of many other aspects of everyday life, it can kind of make migration a contributory factor to welfare, sometimes contributory, sometimes not so contributory. And then we have to listen to what people are saying, right? Because there are ways in which we have to think with the people and their everyday concerns, right? But we have to also intervene into this field to say, actually, these spaces of migration are spaces of everyday living.